This is the waka called Chactecaca, and this is a kind of a cave cavern system where you can actually see some vitrified stone.
Okay.
So you can see here all these interesting cuts and forms.
It's like super flat, and it is really, really hard stone.
Yeah. A lot of people tend to think this is granite, but it actually is it's a limestone. But it looks like a limestone that was reconstituted.
Oh, they did this to all of it.
Yeah.
Why?
That's a good question. I mean, trying to figure out why they did this. And in some places you can see what looks like their fingerprints, which were actually pushing the rock up to make canals. Like over here. Doesn't this look like fingerprints? Oh, here's a great example. Check this out. And it looks like somebody was pushing up some kind of soft plasticine rock.
Definitely looks like it could be like thumb.
I mean,
why
are some of these, like the sides, smooth like this, and others you just can see, you know, it just looks like fingerprints pushing soft stone. And what are these, you know, what are these shapes about?
Yeah, it's like a stair, I guess. And then this. Yeah, it just does not serve any purpose, or doesn't really look too ornamental.
There's another one right here. These knobs are seen in a lot of them.
Yeah, and then these are all cut into containers.
Pacha rock.
This looks like just like green, like where you would, I can't remember what they call them in the United States, but you know, you just grind green. I can't believe I don't remember the name. It's true, this is really weird. Especially this thing. I mean, what for?
These were temples for, as he described it, divine art and divine wisdom. And it was to learning how to manipulate the environment using their will and imagination is basically how he described it. And, you know, when you look at these rocks, I mean, it does kind of look like, you know, there was some intelligence that really knew how to form stone and do it quite easily, because this stuff is everywhere around Sacsayhuaman.
It's really interesting that it's so dense and hard, and they went to the trouble to do this too. It's not like, you know, I was just actually thinking they had thousands of years maybe to sit around and be bored and chisel at rock, but I mean, that's not really
right. And that's something
this took
many
a lot
of the
determination.
guides will tell you, is that the Inca had vast manpower, and they had unlimited time to do this kind of stuff, but that doesn't really make sense. Most of the people that live here in the Andes work really hard and to grow, you know, food crops. And so to have all this time to sit here and chisel rock, you know, and this doesn't even really look chiseled. It really looks like it was formed when it was at a different constitution. So,
like they poured it like concrete.
Yeah, it does look. This is an example of probably the third world building style. This is Inca. And, you know, Inca had a variety of different types of building style, but here you can see they use kind of a clay mortar, which is now growing mold. And you didn't have the quite, you know, I mean, they did have a royal Inca style where the rocks fitted together in a polygonal fashion, but a lot of times the building was just like this. So it was much rougher hewed stones, and there was mortar in between it. But you usually see 3 different styles in these places where you find the Hanapacha rock, which was below here. And so you find Hanapacha, Uranpacha, which is the megalithic and perfectly formed rocks without mortar. And then you find Inca or Wari is the third world kind of style. And they're usually, they build right on top of the Hanapacha. So they see it kind of as a sacred, they knew there was somebody here before them, and they considered these sites as to be revered, basically.
So a pre-Incan civilization built them, you're saying?
Yes, yeah. If you walk on the top of this waka, there's actually a cave that goes deep down.
Oh, nice.
But if you want to see some of the Hanapacha rock over here,
oh yeah, they really put in some work here.
look at this. You see this constantly in this type of rock, these niches. And it's kind of unclear. A lot of people say mummies were put here, and maybe they were. But sometimes these niches are only this deep, you know, and it doesn't really make sense that they put mummies in there. There was a Russian team that came here in 2012, and they did analysis of some of the Hanapacha rock, and they do say it's missing the fossils. And
It's missing the fossils?
It's missing the fossils.
What do you mean? They've been taken out, or they're not there?
Well, they believe that the rock was at one time pulverized, and then it was reconstituted. And so what they see in the stone itself is that it's pretty homogeneous, and they don't see the typical fossils that you would usually see in a...
Well, but I meant like in the loose stone, I've seen a few like shells and stuff, you know, not in the actual, what did you call it? The
Hanapacha stone.
Hanapacha stone? Yeah. You're right, there were none in that.
Yeah, right.
So since they are in this loose stone, then that does really support the idea that it was pulverized and then reconstituted. That would also explain the softness. So maybe they did use it like it was almost like concrete. It's a very strange idea, but I don't see why they would. I mean, that would be so much work.
As far as what the binders were, I mean, that's a good question. But the scientist from Russia, I believe his name is Andrei Veronov or something, was really the first to do an examination of the stone. And he said you could go to the quarry where they actually got the limestone, and at the quarry they have the almost exact chemistry, so you can see where it came from. But the quarry stone actually had the fossils, and the stones that were formed, mainly also on the citadel walls of Sacsayhuaman, seem to be this, you know, geopolymer, basically. So.
What's this cat doing?
Good place to practice. You can look into the cavern here. It's so interesting about these rocks. So many of them actually had tunnel systems. I only discovered this recently. Many people believe that these tunnel systems go from Sacsayhuaman all the way down into downtown Cusco, into the Coricancha area, which is the temple of gold, basically.
And they're natural or no? Or we don't know?
Some of them might be natural, but they were actually, there's humans sometime in the past down there, because they actually found megalithic stones in the tunnel systems. And actually, they're called chincanas. And chincanas, you can also see that they were made by man, because you see vitrification on the side of the walls.
What is vitrification?
It's an application of a really high heat, and it creates kind of a glass-like surface. And it is believed like some ceramic was applied on it in a high heat, and it's very glossy, very shiny. So you find kind of these natural chincanas, and then you find ones which were obviously manipulated by human, maybe something else, I don't know. And then there are some areas, like in the Coricancha, where you see polygonal megaliths underneath, specifically the Church of Santo Domingo, which is where the Coricancha is. And they actually found megalithic tunnels underneath that particular structure.
But do you know how they might have done that? Like what the heat source was?
There's speculation that they maybe used like kind of like sun disk, maybe gold disk, that were collecting the sun rays, and kind of like, you know, magnifying glass.
Heat polish kind of deal.
Right, exactly. But others say, because so much of this is deep in the caves, to have these parabolic mirrors, you know, shining rays in there, very deep in the cave, there wouldn't be enough energy to do that. So I don't know how they applied it, because you can see it, like in some areas it's just a very tiny amount of area, and then there's rough rock. So it seems like they were very precise in how they vitrified like stone, but so it sounds like a tool might have been used of some sort.
Kind of looks like a throne could have been stuck up in there, you know, like the priest or the chief was.
It does look that way. And the kind of the odd thing is, when you see these thrones, sometimes you see these holes.
Oh, so that's a consistent feature of this type of...
Yeah, so what is going on with that hole there?
I mean... Yeah, it's almost like maybe there was something affixed, you know, because there's like a... Like you could have stuck a pole down in there, and... I mean, I don't know why that ever would happen. And then there are these sort of flares.
Depressions to have water in them, so you can actually, at nighttime, you can see the stars reflecting.
Oh, yeah. This little deal here.
So perhaps people came here and used the water also for initiatory purposes.
Yeah, like holy water in a church, maybe.
You can see how perfectly formed that is.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the waka called Chectecaca, and this is a kind of a cave cavern system where you can actually see some vitrified stone.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah, you can tell kind of a dramatic entrance here.
yeah, isn't it beautiful how the walls have these angles to them and curves, and you can check this out. Look how precise these edges are carved into here. And here you can really see a wonderful example of vitrification.
Oh, wow.
Look at how shiny that is.
Man.
And look at this right here.
Oh, yeah, like a seam of it. And all of this, really. So there must have been some special purpose.
Right, because why here and why not here? You know, it's
it
just
like,
seems to be right on this edge here.
It is really smooth. Can't believe you can just walk into something like this here.
That's also the nice thing about Peru. You can just walk into these places, you know.
Looks like there's some sort of coca leaf offering with some weird. Look.
Yeah, that is an offering.
What is this stuff?
I think that is a candy of some sort.
means.
Usually, when you put dulces, it's for Pachamama.
Oh, okay. She's got a sweet tooth, huh?
She does have a sweet tooth.
Well, doesn't want us to eat sugar. Makes us throw up gross stuff, and then she's like, I want candy.
Maybe she wants you to throw up gross stuff.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. She does that to us, but then she wants us to give her candy.
So here's another area where you can feel the vitrification. And then there's kind of an odd ledge that is carved into this.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a giant throne, really. I mean, see some giant beast of a man sitting here.
Remember how we were talking about there's usually a hole when you look at these thrones?
Yeah.
So what do you see right here?
Oh, yeah. It does seem like they must have affixed something to these. What is a good, maybe some kind of like banner or something? I don't know if they use flags. Mm-hmm.
But even on top here, it's vitrified. So it's on the sides, it's on the top.
Interesting, they made like shelves. A lot of them are like this shelf looking thing here, and they're just in kind of weird places. Like they even, you know, they flattened out some of the spots in these like crevices and stuff. Oh yeah, so there was like a stone roof set in these notches that actually go all the way out to the road, it looks like.
And yet people eat these things.
I did the other day.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that Pukara was where the battalions that would protect the royal family were lodged, basically.
Okay, so what is the name of this site again?
This site is called Kenko. Alfred Gamera called Hananpacha, and he called this as like heaven above, this Hananpacha, and he said this was the first form of construction that you see in a lot of the sites here. This is also called a waka, and these were sacred sites that Incan priests would come to, and they would use as oracles, sometimes give offerings to. But my belief is it is much older than when the Inca were actually here performing ceremonies. And the reason because I think it was older is if you can see the shapes that are formed in the rock. And this is a very hard metamorphosed limestone, so it's really hard to work. And the Inca basically used bronze tools and copper tools and sometimes very hard rock, but the angles that you see are almost impossible to get with pounding rock.
Not to mention it's like perfectly smooth all the way across. You don't see like any evidence of tools having been used.
Right, exactly. So what's really interesting is underneath this rock is there's a cave complex, and inside you can see a vitrified stone. It's very smooth, very glossy, and I kind of believe this was used for initiations. Is it looks like it's in the direction of the equinox, and there used to be all throughout the world initiations that would take place in the equinox where a candidate would go in from the west and after a few days would enter to see the rising sun and Venus, and this has that orientation, so it's a pretty interesting place.
That's really wild because you guys, most of you that follow me are probably aware that in the mystery tradition, they had a candidate on the equinox that would enter from the east. And so it's almost the same thing, but it's on the other side of the world and the directions are reversed. So that's pretty interesting. Did they have like wagons or something, or no? They didn't have wheels, right?
No, basically they just had walls, I think, to mark pilgrimages. They basically started pilgrimages from the Coricancha, and they have lines that are radiating from the Coricancha, which are called siques. And the royalty used to have pilgrimages to sacred sites. And you'll notice that the Capitan or Inca Road passes through where all these sacred sites are.
So how long is it? It's really long, this road?
The Inca Road and
like hundreds of miles?
thousands.
Thousands of miles?
Thousands of